Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Opening Tee podcast. I am your host for this short-form podcast, part of the Awesemo Golf Podcast, Jason Rouslin. This is the first of 3 of my little short-form podcasts that I do each and every week. And in this podcast, what I do is I try and give you a mixture of what happened last week to try and, of course, prepare for the upcoming week, mix in a little bit of fun with the cut sweat, and then, of course, set the stage for the upcoming week. I go over who's going to be in the field, how they got here, or at least in normal weeks, how they got here. This week, it's quite easy, so that section might go quite easy this week. And, of course, go into a little bit about the golf course. So, as I do each and every week, I start off with kind of my highs and the lows and my foursome of facts from the previous week. And my high and low for the week did not come in the form of Jim Herman, the first foursome of fact of the week. Jim Herman, the dude has more wins than Tony Finau. What? He has 4 top 10s since 2016 compared to Tony Finau's, I don't know, he probably has over 100 at this point since 2016. In fact, the actual number is 31 top 10s for Tony Finau to Jim Herman's 4. So just crazy stat. I know Tony Finau wasn't in the field last week, although maybe he should have been. But Jim Herman gets it done. He comes out of nowhere. His putter was on fire all week, especially on Sunday, nailing a 40-plus foot eagle putt. I mean, just crazy stuff that happens. But that's what you need to win on the PGA Tour. Billy Horschel, he played super well, but a late bogey cost him. Just a really poor shot on the par 3 16th. He couldn't birdie 17 and missed a really makeable putt on 18. So tough one there. Jim Herman, though, beat him. Some other notes, though, quickly. Kevin Kisner and Doc Redman really fit the profile of approach plus putting. And then we saw Denny McCarthy, who we know as one of the best putters on tour. He got hot with his irons, and it shows you what happens when a guy that gets hot with their irons is also a fantastic putter. The guy had a ton of DraftKings points this week, so just wanted to clarify that. Now, moving on to the European Tour for my third note from last week, or my third of 4 foursome facts. Sam Horsfield wins for the second time now in 3 starts. He is playing some incredible golf. Possibly, hopefully, we'll see him at the U.S. Invitational Open coming up here in September. I don't know if he's in the Masters field. I'm going to guess that he's not in the Masters field. Maybe he'll get a special invitation to play if he continues this incredible run. Tom Peters, my other note from the Euro Tour. Tom Peters makes a roaring comeback. He had the first round lead and ended up coming, I believe, in a tie for third. Just 3 shots back of Horsfield. Thomas Dietrich came in second there. So a couple of Thomases from Belgium had a good week as the European Tour will continue and play this week. Hopefully we can get some time now with the PGA Tour, having less players in the field, less things for me to cover. Maybe able to get into some Euro Tour content. Webb Simpson, another top 5 at his home course, will round out my foursome of facts from the week. He just continues to get it done in his backyard each and every year, paying off the high salary. Still, though, yet to win in his backyard. So he hasn't quite paid off the outright bets, but certainly he has been a good investment for DFS purposes. Okay, before we move on to the Not Your Average Cut Sweat segment, I want to thank SuperDraft, the sponsor of this show, and their continued support. They continually put out good contests and a different product that I love to go out and play. So, if you haven't heard of the product, I'm here to tell you about it. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want to. SuperDraft right now, they've got contests for NBA, MLB, PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Of course, we've got NFL coming back soon. Sign up for SuperDraft today using promo code Awesemo10, and it's 10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more, and 20 total free of your first deposit of $100 or more. So, download it in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits and more winning. All right, the Not Your Average Cut Sweat segment, I actually got a good amount of positives out of this one. I wanted to start this as a little bit more positive tone before we got into the funny ones. So Zach Johnson, he needed 32 on the back nine and got it, and look what he did on the weekend. He made it on the number, then went and shot 61 on Saturday to get himself in to the contention, and then he ended up in a tie for 7th for the tournament by shooting 65 on Sunday. What a weekend. 61-65, Zach Johnson. Christopher Ventura, he needed to play the last 5 holes at 3 under and did so, including a bogey on 18 after birdieing the previous 4 holes. Wow, crazy. Joaquin Niemann, he started off the tournament at 4 over through his first 5 or 6 holes. He then proceeded to play the next 31 at about 8 under to make the cut at 4 under, so he made it by 2, but just wanted to bring that up. Brant Snedeker had a 14-footer to make the cut after birdieing 3 of his previous 7 holes, and of course Brant Snedeker made it. It's Brant Snedeker after all. Vincent Whaley, who had a great week putting, he needed a birdie on 9 from 14 feet. He made it. Great story here. The Monday qualifier, Brinson Paolini needed a 7-footer to make the cut on 9, and he made it. Josh Teeter needed a 2-putt from 18. Samers Power needed a 2-putt from 20 feet. Jordan Spieth needed to play the last 4 at 1 under, and those are the last 3 that got in on the positive side. Before we head to the negative side, we got some real bad ones here this week. Real bad ones. Start off with Corey Connors. He missed 2 inside of 3 feet to miss the cut. Crazy. Awful. Zach Blair needed a 19-footer. He couldn't make it. Bo Hostler needed to play the last 5 holes at 1 over par. He played it at 2 over. Here's Kyle Stanley. Oh, boy. Kyle Stanley needed a 5 on the 9th hole. He made 6, going bunker to bunker and then missing a 3-footer to miss the cut. Awful. Arjun Atwell, he needed a 7-footer to make his 4th straight cut. Couldn't do it. Xingjun Zhang needed to 2-putt from 30 feet, and he couldn't do it. Brendan Todd, he actually birdied 3 in a row to get to -2, but he could not birdie the difficult 18th hole. One of the craziest or awful ones for some people this week was Ches Reavie. He needed 5 on 18 and made 6 after missing a 2-footer. Danny Lee needed to play the last 3 holes at 1 over par and played them in 2. Missing a 25-footer on 18. That's a little bit. That's not that much. Ryan Moore, here's the other awful one for DFS purposes for a lot of people this week. He needed 4 on 18 and couldn't do it. He made 5. Doug Gim did exactly what Brendan Todd did. Birdied 15, 16, and 17, but could not birdie 18. Nelson Ledesma missed a 14-footer. And Aaron Wise, he needed a 1 over on the back and shot 38. Just really struggling to find weekends as Aaron Wise. Okay, let's move on to our statistical review now of where I compare some age-old statistics and the new age strokes gain stuff so we can see how golfers perform. Doc Redman led strokes gain off the tee. Patrick Reed, Sungjae Im, Sam Burns, Jim Herman, Ryan Brem, Luke List, Will Gordon, Tyler Duncan, Billy Horschel, Joaquin Niemann, and Harold Varner round out your top 10 or so. We go over to driving accuracy. Doc Redman, not really known for his accuracy, but he led the field this week. Almost over 80% of his fairways hit. Sungjae Im was 2, Chris Kirk 3, Jim Herman 4, Bohog 5, Henrik Norlander, Billy Horschel, Kevin Kisner, Russ Henley, Tyler Duncan, and Chris Baker. So we've got about a 4-person crossover there. We go to driving distance. We see Sam Burns, Ryan Brem, Will Gordon. All 3 of those guys show up, no surprise. Jason Kokrak was 4, Paul Casey 5, Luke List 6, Fleetwood 7, Ventura 8, Garcia, Lowry, Pat Rogers, Justin Hadley, and Siwoo Kim round out the top 10 or so. Got about a half crossover between the 2 of them, which tends to happen on these smaller courses. We see, about half the golfers that are gaining strokes off the tee come from accuracy and half come from distance. I suspect this week, though, at TPC Boston, we will see a more heavily favored towards the driving distance. Okay, let's move on to our strokes gain on the approach. And anytime this guy leads the field in strokes gain on the approach, he is a danger to score a ton of points. Maybe not win the golf tournament, because I don't want to sound mean to Denny McCarthy, but I don't know if he has the caliber of winning golf tournaments, although Jim Herman just won, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But regardless, Denny McCarthy led the field in strokes gain on the approach, scored a ton of points. He's a great putter, no surprise. Zach Johnson was 2, Siwoo Kim was 3, Jim Herman 4, Kevin Kisner 5, Webb Simpson, Taylor Gooch, Mark Hubbard, Christopher Ventura, Shane Lowry, Billy Horschel, Chris Baker, Doc Redman again, and Patrick Reed again as well. So Reed and Redman's ball striking this week, very, very good. Turn over to greens in regulation. Jim Herman was number 1, Tyler Duncan 2, Russell Henley 3. So when you have a hot putter and you're hitting greens, doesn't really matter where it's from. Sam Burns 4, Luke List 5, Webb Simpson 6, Pat Reed, Chris Baker, Brinson Paolini, Doc Redman, Harold Varner, Zach Johnson, and Denny McCarthy round out the top 10 or so. Okay, when we go on to our strokes gained putting, And, of course, we also have our strokes gained around the green. Let's do around the green first, as I do think it's going to be important this week. Although some of these guys aren't even in it, like Hank Lebioda, who led the field this week in there. He's not even in the field. Tom Hoagie, who is in the field, he was very good this week. Seamus Power, who did not make it, he was number 3. Rob Oppenheim, who also didn't make it, was number 4. Jason Kokrak, though, his around the green work was very good this week, as was his approach and off the tee. His putting was okay, so Jason Kokrak may be in play heading to TPC Boston. Harold Varner also as well looked good in all categories as he continues his good form. Now when we go to the hot putters of the week, Vincent Whaley was 1, and then Billy Horschel and Jim Herman were 2 and 3, and they were 1 and 2 on the board. Herman, of course, winning. Rob Oppenheim was 4. Christian Bezuidenhout was 5. Patton Kizzire was 6. Bud Cauley, Webb Simpson, Justin Hadley, Cam Davis, Kevin Kisner, and Peter Uihlein. You know what? Since there's a second Peter on the board, Peter Malnati also showing up here. Tommy Fleetwood also putting well again. Those are the top 10 or so. All those guys gained more than 1.2 strokes putting. Okay, last one we're going to do is the putts per GIR. This one, I go through it real quick because it's not really a great stat. Siwoo Kim, Cam Davis, Billy Horschel, Peter Malnati, C.T. Pan, Denny McCarthy, Rob Oppenheim, Scott Stallings, Justin Hadley, Bud Cauley, and Kevin Kisner. Okay, last thing we do is we go over the birdie reviews from last week, see who's making a ton of them. Big time scoring for DraftKings. Siwoo Kim, Denny McCarthy, and Jim Herman had 26. Kokrak, Horschel, Ventura at 25, Webb Simpson 24, Kevin Kisner, Tyler Duncan, Zach Johnson, and Cam Davis had 23. So this week, now we get to turn over to this week. I head to TPC Boston for the Northern Trust, and this sets up now 5 weeks. We'll throw out the Safeway Open. So 4 of the next 5 weeks we're going to have stacked fields that ends with a major coming up, the United States Open. Then maybe the focus will go a little bit toward NFL as the PGA Tour winds down their season, but bulks it back up towards that back end of October as they gear up for the November Masters. So plenty of golf and great tournaments still to be played. So a great time to step on the PGA DFS golf course with an Awesemo Plus membership. Just $8.95 for the week. And with that $8.95, you get all of Awesemo's top projections, ownership projections, top golfers tool, all of my content that I give out, my PGA DFS model, internal Slack chat with Ben, Raz, and I, and of course all of Ben's content as well. So great time to join. Step on the PGA DFS golf course today. Okay, this week, speaking of PGA DFS, we're playing for a $500,000. It's the new standard non-milli maker offering size, which also shows a $100K to first place for the $200 buy-in, a $50K to first place for the $100 buy-in, and a $150K to first place for the $555 buy-in. Of course, also $25 buy-in gets you a $500,000 if you win it. And there was somebody in the industry that came in second last week, so it is certainly around. Now when we head and look at TPC Boston, a beautiful, I guess we can call it a forest, tree-lined golf course nestled just outside of Boston. It's not actually in Boston. It's in Norton, just over the line actually. It's actually closer to Rhode Island than it is to Boston. And yes, of course, I'm a Rhode Islander, so I'm going to let you know that. We don't have much in our way of claim to fame, if you will. You know, if you're a fan of Dell's Lemonade or coffee milk, or maybe some Rhode Island clam chowder, one of those 3 things that maybe make it so unique, then great. Nothing else, though. I've been to the event maybe 4 or 5 times. It was a great one to go to. Of course, it's right in DraftKings' backyard, so they invited me once or twice. And it's a great golf course, in my opinion. It's a par 71, about 7,400 yards, 4 par 3s that are 200, 213, 231, and 187. 11 par 4s, which one of them, the 5th hole there, plays easier than 2 of the 3 par 5s. Very interesting. 365, 353, 466, 465, 473, 425, 510. Real tough stretch on that back 9, 11 to 15, which includes that 510 yarder. 447, 495, which is the back end of that, 11 to 15, 431, and 412. The 3 par 5s, 2 of the 3 are reachable, 543, 600, and 530. Although Bryson DeChambeau, I'm sure we'll be able to get to that 600-yard one. Uses a type of Kentucky bluegrass. Remember, we are up north, so you can't use Bermuda up north, so it's going to be some type of POA, some type of bent, all of that mixed in. The official report, if you really want to dig into grass surfaces or types here, which I wouldn't recommend, it's using some type of Pen A variation of Kentucky bluegrass. Again, all I know is that it's very lush. It's especially coming here in September and this time of the year. The colors are going to be vibrant, maybe just starting to turn on the leaves on the trees. It's just a beautiful time of year, no doubt about it. Okay, the field this week. Excuse me. Before we get to the field, let's talk a little bit about facts and figures. The average green size is 5,800 square feet. Not that many water hazards, but a lot of native areas. Keep an eye on the lookout for native area this week on your shot tracker. Plenty of bunkers, 40 plus. Now, how many times do we hit the fairway when we're teeing off? We're going to hit them at 64% of the time, and we're also going to hit a lot more drivers than normal, as the average driving distance here is close to 300 yards, which in 2018 ranked somewhere in the mid to high 30s, so one of the top 12 longest average drive on the tour. So a lot of drivers. 64% fairways equate to 66% greens. Pretty high on both of those, somewhere in the mid-30 rankings as well. Scrambling is around 61% if you do end up missing the fairway, and if you get on the greens, not that hard, 32-49 in 2018. All in all, the par 5s are pretty easy. There's that drivable par 4 on the front side also plays pretty easy. We should see a winning score somewhere around the minus 15 or 16 range. Just provides a great golf course. Some of the winners in the last 3 years, we got Bryson, Justin Thomas, and Rory McIlroy, so obviously the cream of the crop rising here. An interesting note, they got it done through their entire bag. They gained strokes in all 4 categories, and heavily too on all 4, so we want to find golfers that are getting it done in every facet, not just heavily relying on either their approaches or off the tee or around the green for that matter. Okay, so that was my stats for the week, and lastly, let's go over the field. Super quick and super easy this week. The top 125 players ranked inside of the FedEx Cup at the end of this past week, the Wyndham Championship. We'll get into the field this week. If there are any withdrawals, there will be no replacements for those withdrawals. It is 125 minus the withdrawals this week. Okay, the last thing we're going to do here is the top 6 salary guesses, just for a little bit of fun. By the time you're listening to this, salaries may already be out, so it could be a moot point. But if you're listening to it Monday morning before it comes out, maybe just a little bit of fun and to get your mind thinking about where you're going to place your bets at the top. This week, I've got Bryson coming in at 11.4. He's the defending champion of the event. He's coming off a great start at a major this time, too. I think 11.4 is the price and highest for him. Justin Thomas, also a former winner here. Got him coming in at 11.3. Number 1 ranked in the world, Jon Rahm at 11.1. Rory sliding in at 10.9 for maybe the 3rd or 4th event in a row where he's been below 11K. Colin Morikawa at 10.7. There's no way that they're not going to put a possible number 1 golfer in the world below 10K this week. It's just not going to happen, in my opinion. And Xander Schauffele will round out the guys above 10K at 10.3. So we got Bryson 11.4, JT 11.3, Rahm 11.1, Rory 10.9, Morikawa 10.7, and Xander 10.3. So this was a rather short one for the opening tee pod. That's because normally I go into a little bit more depth about the field and who's playing, but we already know who it is, being the top 125. So for more information, of course, and to check out all of the stats and more on all of the players in the field, listen to the Fit and Form podcast coming out on Tuesday morning. And then, of course, you want to learn ownership. You want to find out. Siwoo Kim is going to be 7% owned this week. He's got a great top 5 chance. That's what ended up happening, of course. Come and check out my Against the Grain, Reading the Grain pod on Wednesday morning. And, of course, our live shows starting one a day for the next 3 days. We got a 2 o'clock PGA DFS First Look with myself, Jeff Ulrich, and Sal Vitri on Tuesday. The fantasy golf man himself, Timothy Frank, and Ben Raza at 2:30. And then Ben Raza and I are wrapping it all up and tying it in a bow on Wednesday night at 8:30 for our Live Before Lock show. So until then, thank you to SuperDraft, the sponsor of this show, and thank you to all of you for listening and coming by today. And hopefully we will see you back here for the next Fit in the Form podcast coming out tomorrow morning. So until then, everybody, we will see you on the other side. Cheers.